You're listening to UnitedWeStrike.com radio. Don't buy, don't comply. Ask why. UnitedWeStrike.com radio.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning back into the UnitedWeStrike.com radio marathon. It is November 9th, 2013. I am Matt Navarro, host of the New World Order Report here at the UnitedWeStrike.com marathon. This is probably the best part of the day for us as hosts here at UnitedWeStrike.com. So we gather some of our hosts that we've had on throughout the day and have a roundtable discussion. Now, for the past few months, it's been very interesting. A lot of great ideas come forth, a lot of good banter between the hosts, and it really is a very intriguing radio if I were a listener. But, you know, I get the pleasure to be amongst these people and a participant as well. And what normally happens on our roundtable discussion is I'll throw out a topic and we'll go around the table, you know, getting people's opinions on the topic of the day. Well, this time I think I'll take a step back and let our host take the topic and whatever they want to choose to discuss. See, my thought today is that we just go around the table and we just share with our audience whatever's on our mind. Okay, and I'll go last. But here we have a very interesting cast here, and it's always intriguing to me that I get to hang out with people of this intelligence and who are awake and enlightened as they are. We have founding member Karen Tostado on. We have Suzanne Posel, Larkin, Texas. Gary Hendershot. We finally got Vinny Eastwood. He's hanging on there. We've got Dinah, Everett Snyder, and who else? Do we have Phil?
Sure do. I managed to drag Phil in here kicking and screaming.
All right, we have Phil Restino on. So thank you, everyone, for joining us here this evening. Larry, since you can't be on with us for too long, we've decided that you can go ahead and go first. So, you know, this is an open forum. What's on your mind?
Well, first I want to thank you, Matt. I want to thank Gary for all the hard work he does. And I also want to thank all of my fellow hosts, co-hosts, whatever, who are working so hard. And United We Strike as a whole. Thank you. Thank you. And, of course, the audience. I guess where I'm coming from this Saturday evening is and this is a question and a statement, is the Obama trance finally beginning to wear off, the compound question, and what are we doing? What are we doing to replace this trance? So what are we doing to really empower, I hate that word, ourselves, our communities, you know, basically this nation. So that's where I'm coming from. I mean, after all, it's time to wake up. That's what it's about for me right now.
Wow, so you're hoping that Obama craze is finally washing from the eyes of the people, and maybe they're removing that sleep cover and seeing through this.
Right. And I'd be very interested in knowing what everyone else is thinking. And in addition, what are we doing to remove that sleep from their eyes, or that drunken stupor that so many people have been in for so long?
I think we do what we do here, talking to people like you and having people like you on to help educate us, to help our audience understand that they can empower themselves. Yes, that is a word that I would endorse. Empower themselves to maintain their health so that they can continue fighting another day, and then to help teach others. I like what you say, Larry. You say each one reach one, each one teach one. That's exactly what we advocate. So maybe you answer your own question. Who wants to go next? Or are you done, Larry? Or
Well, let me just say I appreciate that point, because you know it's always amazing to me, frankly, how people pick up on that expression, and that's why I use it. I believe in it. What you just said: each one reach one, each one teach one, and I think that's what people power. Black, white, brown, red, yellow, everyday, ordinary people power really should be all about. And to answer, if I may, my own question is, yes, I do believe and I should have said systemic, because obviously it's not just the Obamatron, but it's systemically. I do believe that all of us, and many more, are very, very busy and actively removing the sleep from people's eyes. So I'll shut up right there.
Man,
I'd like to go next if I could.
Sure, Vinny. Welcome.
Yeah. I've been thinking about this just recently, about people who say what you resist persists. Obviously, to me, this sounds like complete insanity. Probably because it is. Mind control is very, very prevalent, wouldn't you think, in a mentality like that? Try telling that to a rape victim. Oh, what you resist persists, but I've got a gun right here. I can shoot him and prevent myself from being raped. Yeah, but if you resist him, he'll just keep coming. Well, after he's dead? Are you kidding me? See, it's just insanity. What you resist persists is just mind control wrapped in new age nonsense. And again, try telling that to a rape victim. It's enough said. It doesn't make any sense. People are genuinely confused. They actually believe this. What happened to Nazi Germany again? Oh, yeah, that's right. They got defeated. How did they get defeated? Oh, because they were resisted. Oh, okay. What about the Empire of Japan? Is that still around? No. Why? Because it got resisted. Oh, okay. What about Vietnam? Is that still under attack by the US? Why not? Oh, because it got resisted. Oh, okay. Why? Don't you realize every time you resist, you wind up winning? Resistance is victory. And so naturally, the New World Order puts out this mentality to prevent people from ever achieving victory. And people argue with me, and they say, "Oh, well, Nazi Germany didn't really get defeated. It's now in the in the UN Agenda 21 legislation." And I go, "Yeah, exactly. That's because instead of naming and shaming all the individuals that got imported to the United States under Operation Paperclip, like we should, and send them to jail for their crimes against humanity and all their mind control experiments, instead of going into the CIA, instead of brainwashing and mind controlling, and instead of getting to the point where they wind up writing all the legislation, we could have actually had them all tucked away and actually beaten them. But no, this mentality still exists. And that's the problem, actually. This mentality. It's not so much the scumbaggery that's a big problem. It's people who believe that you cannot expose it, that you cannot defeat it, and that you should not fight it. That is an insane slave mentality. It doesn't make any sense. Much like I don't believe in karma either. Oh, if you're a good person, good things will happen to you. If you're a bad person, bad thing will happen to you. That's not what karma is. Karma is something after the fact. It's a belief structure, like heaven or hell, for example, that somewhere down the track things will be sorted. Right here, right now, karma doesn't exist. Okay? Here's why. David Rockefeller. Is he still rich? Yep. Is he still powerful? Yep. Does he still have little girls to sacrifice and drink the blood of every night? Probably. Oh, man. Don't you get it? It's the direct opposite. And I believe that karma as well, this belief is another mind control thing, because people don't recognize what it actually is. They think that by their own inaction that they can affect real change. Oh no, there's some terrible, bad, evil scumbags. Oh, they're going to get really badly punished in like a few thousand years after they get reincarnated or something. I'll tell you what, I'd rather just give them justice now. Thank you very much. Because in my opinion, justice doesn't exist in nature. I mean, you ever seen a lion eat a baby gazelle? You know, did the adult gazelle come and kill the lion in retribution to get justice? No, he didn't. He just ran away and just accepted that the baby's dead. Okay, animals believe in karma. That's why they get eaten. Human beings, on the other hand, we have freaking guns. We have courts. We have police. We have activists. We have people that can actually take you the frack out. Not necessarily in a physical or murderous sense, but actually take you out into the public eye, name you, shame you, send you to jail. That's justice. And if you're sitting around waiting for karma to do that for you, you'll be waiting for a very long time, probably until after your death, probably until you're in the next plane of existence.
And in the meantime, you have to live in a world like this one that's real pretty when you look at specific areas and incredibly ugly when you look in others. And so you choose to ignore the ugliness and do nothing about it while it grows and festers and grows ever more powerful.
Vinny, you had so few words last month, but you've come back with a little energy today. So I suspect you had a few cups of coffee under your belt, but well said. Well said. It is a craziness that they put out into the propaganda, and the propaganda they feed the public is very Orwellian. We haven't heard from Karen in a very long time. Karen, how would you like to, what's on your mind, or would you like to respond to Vinny?
Well, what has been on my mind, I kind of agree with Vinny about the karma. I'm not really convinced any longer that that's something that we have to always deal with here. I think there are ways of getting around it. I do believe that you reap what you sow, but there are ways, I think, of recognizing where you need to go and working within yourself to eliminate some of our own baggage. But something that's really on my mind is Fukushima. And is the fact that, to me, 2 weeks ago, when they evacuated Fukushima, evacuated it, it really hit home in terms of our life now, living up here in the Pacific Northwest, is like dancing on the edge of a razor blade. Supposedly over 15,000 rods that have to be moved. They can't handle another earthquake. There was just another earthquake in the area today. We don't think about the damage that we have caused to Mother Earth. And that is something that I really believe that we are missing out on, because we're destroying our home planet. We're destroying the future for our children. We're destroying the future for ourselves. And I don't like to fearmonger or to make too much of something. I don't like this to rule my life. I don't let it rule my life. But at the same time, I'm very aware of the fact that all the reports of the Pacific Ocean being slowly killed seem to make sense. We've got starfish melting in Canada, and now Seattle, and now in California. I'm from Catalina Island. I hate to even think about what it's like over there. Depending on where you look, we have a debris field from the original explosion that's anywhere from the size of California to the size of Texas, floating in the ocean. We're using depleted uranium and bombs on the opposite side of the world. We are simply headed toward our own demise so quickly, like lemmings over the cliff, but I'm sure Lark can tell you even that was a fallacy, but the idea in my mind is the same. We just are staying so busy being brainwashed into thinking that our value depends on a piece of paper or colored metal, when if we have no home to live on, what does any of that matter? So I think very much that we need to understand our true job is good stewardship of our planet. And until we step into that, we're missing that critical juncture between actually attaining higher consciousness and just talking about it. Because whenever people are murdered, innocent people murdered, that is totally immoral. And if they belonged to our family, we would be up in arms. We would want it stopped immediately. And yet we're so cavalier about people on the other side of the world dying. So in my opinion, we do need to stop. And we need to stop at the same time. And it's why I still promote the 15th as a day to step back from the brink together, take a deep breath, and ask yourself, why am I here? And how much time do I have when 15,000 rods to put back like a cigarette package? If you picture that, each individual cigarette has to go back in that package, but the package is all messed up. Where you're picking it up is all messed up. In my opinion, we should demand of our governments, all of them, an immediate ceasefire. Send our troops home to their countries to help rebuild and focus all our military expertise, all the hidden technology on solving this problem of Fukushima, on restoring the damage caused by the depleted uranium. We need to stop fracking our planet, stand together united, and turn around to begin to heal, or we will not have a future. And for the first time in my life, or maybe it's for about 2 weeks now, I am no longer convinced that we will in fact make it. I no longer know. And so my life, the days and the minutes count more than they did before, because I feel a very real sense of my own mortality.
Well, we cannot directly affect what goes on at Fukushima. TEPCO seems to still be in charge, and the Japanese government should have stepped in a long time ago with experts from around the world who could have brought engineering technology to that situation to have alleviated it a lot more, I believe, than they have by now. And you're very right to be concerned about that, because it could potentially reduce the northern hemisphere's ability to sustain life, and we would just wither like raisins in the sun. We haven't heard from, let's see, Phil, you're new to our roundtable. How about you? What's on your mind, and would you like to respond to what Karen said?
Oh, sure. Hi, guys. The ceasefire Karen mentioned, a lot of people don't know, in the anti-war community itself, that the President of the United States, the Commander-in-Chief, can order a ceasefire at any time,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what he's Commander-in-Chief of, not the damn country, but the military. He's Commander-in-Chief. We're the Commander-in-Chief of him, the people, and I think we have to continue to educate our fellows on the basis that Larry preaches. Each one reach one at a time, every which way you can, at the gas pump, in the shopping center, anything. And there's all kinds of ways of making conversation, just we've got to do it to save our own asses. And just keep repeating and repeating and repeating. The other thing was the waking up that this conversation first started with, when you asked Larry about folks waking up. My concern is, and what I see is, as people do wake up, you're kind of, the training wheels are off, so to speak, and you're looking for something to hold on to, and often it's the familiar old Larry and I call a reservation. People step out and they're on their own, and it's scary, and you don't know. You're so used to thinking what you're told to think. The people on the right and on the left, the reservation, the Democrat Party, the Republican Party, the whatever, the progressives, the conservatives, the ones that keep the people divided, whatever camps they are, as people wake up, I think there's a lot of Obama bashing right now, and I go to websites like the Oath Keepers or the even the libertarian websites, just to see what's on there, and you could see it's almost like falling back, Larry, back into the, it's the evil Democrats, or it's the evil Republicans. I think that there's a danger in this waking up where we've got to be even more vigilant in keeping these people, as they wake up, from being misled and misdirected to the division and to the false culprit. They know something's wrong. They know they've been done wrong, and that's a dangerous point in time, because that's when the misleaders will step in and say, that's the one who did you wrong, and that's where we really have to be vigilant and every day get out there and engage our fellows.
Indeed, we have to. And I like your voice. You and Larry get, on a lot of radio shows. And so I would remind everyone, while we're all here as a group, if you're on your own radio shows, please don't forget to give a plug for the marathons. This is a unique event in world history. Having the people that we do have gathered here with the minds that we have here and sharing what we can here to what? To unite this species, the race as a whole. So the more people we can draw to this program, the better. So give a plug for United We Strike if you can when you're doing your own shows. We have technology issues with Dinah all the time, so she's been with us at least this long without having to drop. Let's get your thoughts of the day. Hello, Dinah.
Hi, Matt. Well, I think that I would like to give a plug for Veterans Day, which is on Monday. Everyone knows that I do a lot of work with veterans and their families, and that, of course, came about because I work with autistic children. And the think tank that I'm affiliated with just produced a series of papers that present the fact that depression will be the second leading cause of premature death by 2020. And the research that was involved, because that's what we look at, is all of the research that's involved, is absolutely astounding and jaw-dropping, particularly when you look at the fact that 70% of the American population has at some point already been on pharmaceutical drugs for depression. 70%. Across all ages. I was looking at numbers where children as young as 3 are on depression meds. Then you have the full spectrum of stimulant medications that are given to autistic children and children that have ADHD and ADD and, all of these things. And in a couple of studies that I did over the last year with veterans, I discovered some startling similarities between the PTSD symptoms that veterans manifest when they come home from overseas and those symptoms of autism. In addition, veterans have seriously low levels of magnesium in their body. And there's highly specific reasons for that, which I won't get into here, but one of the symptoms of having a chronic magnesium deficiency is depression. And so I hypothesized during our discussions at the think tank that our entire population is so chronically magnesium deficient, and our entire population is so chronically B vitamin deficient, particularly B12. And in addition, our population is chronically thyroid deficient in iodine. And that were we to actually provide our entire population, and specifically our veterans and our vulnerable groups like our autism community, if we were to provide them with a truly sound nutritional supplement that included all of these cell basics, because they're all cell basics, that we would immediately eliminate so much of the issues that we have, mental health issues and chronic health situations that we have in this country and around the world. I mean, increasingly it's becoming a global issue. But for now, we have more than a third of our American population is morbidly obese. And I want to point out that the morbidly obese population in America is actually nutritionally starved. So we can look at children in Africa that look like they've come from a concentration camp. They're just skin and bones. And our mind and our psyche clearly identifies that these people from Africa are nutritionally starved literally to death. They're at death's door. But we fail to recognize that these morbidly obese and chronically overweight Americans are likewise nutritionally starved, and that there are very particular reasons why, instead of being skeletally thin, they are morbidly obese. So that's something that I really wanted to put out there. It's not something that I was able to talk about in my portion of the show this morning, but I want to take my hat off to our veterans because Veterans Day is on Monday, and I want to highlight that our veterans are a targeted sector of our community for all that they have gone overseas and fought wars on behalf of the United States. And I want to be clear that they have fought wars for United States. that's U.S. incorporated and not for the United States of America, where the people of the United States of America reside, because these have all been very much business wars, bankers' wars, and commercial wars, and have had nothing to do with personal safety of people residing in America. For all that we have been, what has been rammed down our throats is this Al-Qaeda threat and Muslim threat and terrorist threat and all this other nonsense. It is none of those things, and that has all been a contrived situation to employ our consent to having our freedoms taken away in order to create more of a war environment, to the point where we have now effectively brought this war home to the streets of America, where our police departments are now involved in urban warfare and urban warfare tactics drills, and that our veterans are targeted very, very much so when they come home. They are targeted in their civilian capacity, where they are being systematically disarmed in their capacity as a private citizen. They're being disenfranchised, they're being marginalized, and they're being victimized. The VA victimizes and marginalizes these people on a daily basis. There's been a lot in the media about the fact that there have been so many claims sitting in the VA, and in fact there's been Senate hearings on this, and just recently the VA counted and said, well, they've managed to process even more claims than they'd originally estimated. And by this, they are lying through their teeth, because what they're doing is they are simply they're not reading the paperwork, they're denying the claims without due process. In this way, they can effectively say these claims have been taken care of. But what it does for the people whose claims these are, it puts them in a different department where they now have to go through the appeals process, which is a very excruciating and painful process for families to have to endure. And so while the numbers of claims seem to be going down, they've simply been shunted off into a different department. And this last week, I've spent going over all this paperwork and working with veterans and their families. And in veteran families, you need to understand there's not merely the soldier who has come home who needs medical assistance. In all likelihood, any and all of the children that have been conceived and born during the time that the soldier was an active soldier have chronic health issues. I know many families where the only healthy person in the household is the child that was conceived and born prior to their father or their mother's deployment overseas. So you have families,
Yeah, I can tell you firsthand, as a veteran, that the VA is not there to help you. They are a roadblock and a means to deplete you of your substance or your substance. You know, and I agree with you that we should consider our veterans, being one. I'd like to take my hat off and salute Mr. Rustino. It is good for you to point out that. And if you were listening earlier, folks, Phil and Larry had on, I guess it was another Veterans for Peace member, Steve, and they gave us a lesson on Armistice Day, which is actually now Veterans Day. So that was a good show, guys, because, you know, I thought you brought some good information to the table. Lark, in Texas, you've been quiet. What's on your mind, or do you want to expand on what Dinah was saying, because you were talking about something like that earlier?
Well, of course, as Dinah was speaking, I was thinking of my late younger brother, who's buried in a veteran cemetery somewhere in Northern California. I've never visited. But quite honestly, anything having to do with allopathic medicine whatsoever, I don't want anything to do with it, because, of course, my entire nuclear family's dead today because they trusted their doctors. And I mean, I don't trust the son of a bitches. And I never will. And I haven't been to a doctor since 1975. And I don't intend to go unless someone's dragging me, kicking and screaming or half dead. And hopefully I can make arrangements so that they'll take me somewhere else. And quite honestly, not to hurt anyone's feelings here, but people ask me all the time, well, don't you support the troops? And I say, hell no. No, I do not support the troops. And I'm sorry to say that, but these folks don't know what the hell they're doing. I don't support the troops. I don't support the top brass. I mean, I'm serious. I don't support a damn thing that they're doing. You know, the United States military is probably one of the largest, if not the largest, polluters on the planet. It is one of the most corrupt, criminal, most insane, and one of the largest organizations of its type ever conceived on the face of this planet in world history. No, I don't support the troops. I'm so sorry. I don't support anything about them.
Go ahead.
So, having said that, let me just quickly say I was hearkening back to what Vinny was saying as I was listening, because I think Vinny struck a chord with me tonight, because I know that I hear folks all the time, and I said this in the round table last month. They speak of consciousness, yet they stick their heads in the sand in the same way that an ostrich does. They tell you that they're quite awake. They're most enlightened. But they turn a blind eye to the reality of the world around them. So sure, they may be awake. They may be enlightened. But for all of you who still have family members and friends and loved ones still alive on this planet, take a tip from your friend Lark here, down in Texas. You need to reach them. You need to reach them. Because as I indicated tonight with my guest tonight during my segment, Nikki Rapana of Living Outside the Dialectic, I made mention of Robin Eubanks' new book at Amazon. And I'm so proud of her. I've interviewed her a couple of times. Her book, she studied, of course, the education system and education policy, but her new book is entitled Credentialed to Destroy: How and Why Education Became a Weapon. Now, this book hasn't been out 1 month. Credentialed to Destroy: How and Why Education Became a Weapon. And I asked Nikki during my segment today, well, can we change that word education? Let's insert the word military, the law, the legal system, the medical system. Credentialed to destroy. So all these folks that are getting these degrees, what are they being credentialed to destroy? I have to ask myself. And one should ask themselves the same question. You've been credentialed for what? To destroy your fellow man? To destroy the planet? Destroy everything you've ever held dear? And then to permit your own family members to be destroyed by the same system in which you participate. So there's my thoughts.
Well, you know, your point about the military is well taken. Though when I served, I had principle, or at least I believed at that time I had principle, and I did support the Constitution. And most guys I served with were of like mind. I'm not sure if that's the case for today's military, but when I served, we did have a sense of duty to the Constitution. The Constitution wasn't a naughty word at that time, okay? This was pre-Clinton, pre-Waco, okay? Where patriot meant you were a bad guy then. But thanks for your thoughts. I thought you did a great job, Lark. I mean, with your guest Nikki today, you know, I've not heard you with a guest, and the way you introduced her and brought her on and conducted the show, I thought was well done.
Well, thanks. She's a wonderful researcher, and I made mention in the chat, by the way, of also Vicki Davis of Channeling Reality. Many of you have heard her voice, as well as Robin Eubanks, who I just cited as the author of this new book. Four ratings so far at Amazon, all 5 stars. These 3 women are just wonderful researchers, and as many of the hosts here, I respect them so much. And if any of y'all have a chance to meet with these ladies, I think it would be wonderful if you could bring them onto your radio programs, or just get to know them, because they certainly have been very helpful to me.
Why don't you bring them on so our guests can listen to them and you can interview them for our guests? Suzanne, I think we have Suzanne and Gary left, right? Who else is on the call that we've missed?
Am.
Oh, hey, Am. Okay, so let's go to Suzanne and then you can go. Okay, how do we sound okay?
Yeah.
Okay, Suzanne, welcome back. Glad to have you. I know you're just up the road from me there in Beaverton. We're going to have to hook up for some beer or something sometime. But what's on your mind? Welcome.
I think that we really, desperately, absolutely need to stop complying with the system. Completely. We need to stop complying with the system. We need to stop purchasing in the big box stores. We need to start putting our money into our local community. Stop buying your groceries at the major grocery outlet. Support your local farmer and give him an upfront donation that will give you a box, a CSA box, a community supported agriculture box, weekly, bi-weekly, bi-monthly, however they have it set up. So you are supporting financially that farmer to stay in business for the next season, and you get all the food and all the spoils throughout the season, more than you can eat. You probably have to share it with your neighbors. I know I do. We need to, I constantly get this terrible fear-driven cry from readers and listeners. When are they going to take the money? When are they going to have the banking holiday? The answer to that is very simple. If your money is not in the bank, what do you care? Seriously, folks, take yourself out of the equation. If your money is not in the bank, then it doesn't matter when they go ahead and drop that bomb. You are not participating. And they're going to keep devaluing the fiat, I understand that, but at least you have it in your hand. Now, more than ever, it is literally safe underneath your mattress than it is inside that bank account.
You know, they could Cyprus you, right? They could Cyprus your account.
Absolutely. I've been talking for a long time about banking virus. They've had several banking viruses come out. They're restricting, Chase is restricting international wire transfers, acceptance, and sending. They don't allow their customers to do that anymore. But the simple answer to that is close your account. Or if you have to have it open for business, keep exactly what you need to pay your bills and make sure you pay them and keep that account at zero. Take everything else out of it and put it underneath your mattress. Take your kids out of the schools. Take them out.
Yes.
If you can't do that, for the love of God, sit down with your child after school, take their textbooks out and read it with them and correct all the crap that they've been told for the last 8 hours.
That's like another whole part-time job.
It is. It's called parenting.
Well, yeah. How about that? You know, for concept.
It's not.
Wow.
Your child is not an accessory.
Yeah. You can't carry it around in a little handbag.
Right. Don't have them if you're not going to parent them.
Well,
Parent them. It's not just about, not doing what your parents did. It's about learning why you shouldn't be doing anything that you were programmed to do and do what's right for them. They are your advocate. If you don't stand up for them, nobody else is going to. And then they will grow up thinking that nobody is going to stand up for them. They won't stand up for themselves, and they will be the perfect little automaton slave to go get some stupid job so they can lose their house, lose their income, get on food stamps, get on welfare benefits, have those taken from them, and have nowhere to go but the Agenda 21 little shoebox that has been assigned to them.
Well said. I like your passion. I like the way. Yeah. Well done. Well done.
Everybody needs to get a hell of a lot more angry, I think. And
I think that
it's a great motivator.
Right.
You're absolutely right. This is what I keep asking, and Suzanne and I have talked about this as well, is where is the anger? Where's the indignation from people? Where, we can talk about awareness all you want, and Suzanne writes great articles, we come on the radio and we talk, we put all this energy into our shows, and people sit and they listen, and I get emails where people agree with me, all very nicely and politely. These are not topics that should be engendering politeness. These are topics that should be making your blood boil and making you angry enough to go down to the school and disenroll your kids. This is the anger that should make you go out and get seeds and come home and start growing.
Exactly. I mean, the don't comply part of the mentality of United We Strike is what she's identifying, and I agree entirely. We've been here for the last 4+ years with fabulous people like yourselves advocating that. Am was itching to get in. Thanks, Am, for your patience. Your thoughts.
It's a pleasure listening to everybody. Actually, listening, a few things came up. I just wanted to make mention of them. Vinny, I would point out that lions and other related animals do not have belief systems. They have intuitive processes according to their nature, and the success of that form patterns. But to have a belief system, you have to be able to play with mental apparatus. You have to be able to use language to direct your thoughts into saying, this is the way I need to focus. And, of course, we label that and have associations. You were talking about karma. The basic quality of karma, when you get rid of all the fairy tale huckstering that goes along with it, is cause and effect. And that comes down to what, if you would, you might call the two sins. The more obvious one we make hysterical media of is the sin of commission. But the greater sin, so to speak, is the sin of omission, where we neglect to use, to tap into, to deploy what's really available to us. That, of course, leads to all kind of havoc. I think we're all talking about taking responsibility. And if we break that word down, responsibility, you get the ability to respond according to how you're structured, what you've learned, what you've been able to make out of it, how you can process. If you omit to accept your ability to respond to circumstances, which is what we're discussing, why the world is tied up right now against its better interest, then sure shooting, somebody's going to come along and say, nope, this is your responsibility. This is how you should be responding. Which first comes down to education. Education should be learning to think for yourself, to use the resources we can bring to your attention, show you how they're structured, how we've used them, how we discovered them, so that you can go on to put them to your best use. On the other half of that, we have intimidation, where you're learning indoctrination in the mass facilities, where you're learning to obey rules and regulations. Don't think for yourself. You might question us. Now, all of that, somebody was saying we should be doing the right thing, the thing that's really needed. Why don't we do the right thing? Because regardless of how brilliant or well-intentioned or absolutely practical our thoughts are, it's not the thoughts that are controlling the trip right now. And it's really important for everybody to understand that when we sit around like this, we're intelligent, we've perused, we've analyzed the social structure a lot more than the billions of people, the average, running around the planet. But even so, when you let go, when you have moments of feeling down, depressed, when you feel angry, and anger is just frustration that's built and built until you can't hold it back, and it comes out with all the contained force by which you've been repressing it. But we're in that space. We wouldn't choose it. It's not what we want. It makes us feel bad. But we resort to it because most people, regardless of what they think or believe, are stuck subconsciously in patterns they've outgrown a long time ago. And I just wanted to point some of these things out. I also like what Diana was saying about chronic diseases, and I certainly dealt with them extensively, one-on-one, of every kind. But I would also point out that, yes, there are deficiencies because of the way things are being handled, the chemical and toxic effect on the body. But if you start giving a body that's out of balance things it needs to correct itself, it goes through a stuttering effect. It has to be guided because it's become locked into a dynamic disequilibrium. And organ systems are tied up. Cells are toxic. They're not functioning properly. Ligaments and tendons are out of focus. So when you give the body something it needs, the person needs a little education as to what to expect and how they can best put it to use to reclaim themselves. Just giving it to the average person will make a difference. But in health, the closer you get to balance, to being centered, the more at ease, the more comfortable you are, the more subtle and sublimated the responses are. When you're terribly out of balance, you give the body anything and it yo-yos, it shifts, and it seems like a big deal. But we're talking about health. Just wanted to share some of that with you.
Well, it's hard for the average person who's not aware of GMO foods or the chemicals in their body to know that what they're giving themselves is not nutrition. And so the body cannot ever physically absorb any nutrients from these. And that's why you were talking about, Dinah, earlier, that we are nutrient deficient. That's why, I take a whole host of nutritional supplements. But if your body, because of what you eat, is under attack, your mind and soul cannot follow, and I get your point. I get your point.
But you can also learn to gain control of the feelings, which are really directing the metabolism. I mean real control, not wishful thinking. And you can, by the right forms of focus and concentration, you can actually work with the body and help direct the utilization and energies. It's a fantastically sophisticated way of playing with your own nervous system and metabolism, but you can not only get away from the negative, but you can start to enhance to a higher, more vital level of existence.
I agree with that. The more you can manage your stress in your life and be more balanced and connect with that spiritual side of yourself, I think the healthier you would be. I would totally agree. Gary Hendershot, we need to wrap pretty soon. So, one of our great producers, I thank you very much for doing what you do. We could not be here without your talent and your skill. So I appreciate everything you do for United We Strike. We could not be United We Strike without you. Your thoughts of the day, or you want to respond to what Am was saying?
Wow, I'll tell you, we've covered so much ground today. I hardly know where to start. But before I get off on one of my personal tirades, I'd like to pass on a concern from a very good friend of mine who's living these days in the Philippines. I don't know if anybody's caught on the media that the Philippines just suffered a fairly significant hit from a typhoon. Now, we take hits here in the United States all the time. I mean, we just think about recently we had that miss down in the Gulf of Mexico where we took a hit from this monstrous storm called Katrina. And the sad part about the way that disaster was handled is that more people perished in the aftermath of that storm than what perished in the storm itself. It was the failure of our infrastructure here in the United States to take care of those who'd been dispossessed and darn near washed away by that storm that caused most of the fatalities associated with Katrina. Well, I had occasion today to talk to this friend of mine who lives in the Philippines. He's an Aussie fellow married to a Filipino woman, and he's decided to make his home in the Philippines. And of course, I guess being an Aussie, he's by their standards, he's pretty well heeled. He was able to afford a very nice house up on the hill, overlooking a fishing community in a suburb of a major city in the Philippines. He's not right in the city; he's kind of out in the country, and he's got a very picturesque view out his front porch, looking out over this very active fishing village where the people make their living fishing. That's what they do, and fairly large community. Tens of thousands of people live in that community. They live in fairly closely packed, what we would consider shanties, I guess, but they live a very comfortable, very very happy life. They have all the conveniences that they need, and they're very happy with their lives, and probably would have continued to be happy right through the end of their lives had it not been for this typhoon. Now when he looks out off of his porch down towards where the fishing village used to be, all he can think about is, gee, the lady who I would buy my chickens from, her shack was right over there, and the guy who raised the pigs that I did business with, his shack used to be right over there. This fellow is absolutely decimated. Not quite 100 people in that particular community lost their lives. Now, in all of the Philippines, I understand that perhaps a couple of thousand lost their lives. But, it hit this friend of mine very personally because, one day he looked out over the village and he says, yeah, I haven't visited the lady down there that cuts my hair in a while. It's time for me to go get a haircut. Well, today she's not there anymore. Her shack is gone. But, as bad as it is and as devastating as it is for him to think about all the people that were close to him, people that he did business with every day. As devastating as it is for him to realize that so many of them aren't alive anymore, and almost all the rest are dispossessed. The bright spot of it is that the Philippines swung into action. The people who lost their homes, granted, they're living in tents right now. They're living, up a little higher on the hill than where my friend lives. They're living in tents, but they've brought in porta potties. They're bringing in food. They're bringing in water. We think of the Philippines as this backwoods little country out in the middle of nowhere. Where people live real hard. But you see the best in a society when it's at its worst. And right now the Philippines has taken a 2x4 in the back of the head, but those people are pulling together. And they're the ones who have survived the initial hit. Chances are they're going to survive and rebuild because, as a community, they're pitching in, pulling together. Their government is making the necessary arrangements so the survivors of this horrible storm have at least the bare essentials they need to survive. Now, granted, these people aren't accustomed to living high. My friend was remarking to me, well, everybody in that fishing village had a cell phone, and they all have a little solar panel that they'd sit out to recharge their cell phone because, they don't have any central electricity coming in there. It's a little fishing village out in the middle of nowhere. They don't have, cable TV and electric grid and all that nonsense. No, they got a solar panel that they use to charge their cell phone. They use kerosene for lighting. They use kerosene for heat. And they use diesel to run their little fishing boats. By our standards here in the United States, these people are poor. But there is no dishonor in poverty unless you consider it dishonor. And these people are probably much better equipped because of their self-dependence to survive this trauma that they've suffered. And, my hat's off to them because all I can think about is, the videos of the people after Katrina, where, somebody was out there trying to hand out sandwiches and bottled water to the survivors of Katrina. And I remember this one woman looking at it and said, I don't want your darn ham sandwich and bottled water. I want a Big Mac and a Coke. And the contrast is staggering. And I think it's something that each of us needs to kind of sleep on and think about. I look around, this little 200 square foot man cave, my secret underground bunker just 12 miles south of D.C. And I'm sitting here, I'm using more electricity in the 4 or 5 hours that I've done this broadcast than most of the populations in the Philippines will use in their lifetime. I eat good. I've got flush plumbing. I just flush the toilet and it's gone. Whoopee, I've got all these conveniences. But I wonder if having those conveniences and being spoiled on those conveniences, I wonder how prepared I would be if I got hit in the back of the head with a 2x4 like the people in the Philippines have just been hit, how well would I be able to weather the storm? That's something I think each of us needs to think about and sleep on.
Well, I believe you're right about the Filipino people. They're intelligent people of low means, no doubt, but they're resilient people as well. For I am Filipino as well, I know. It is tragic what happens to them. Your question is valid about preparedness, but your point, Gary, about the resilience of the Filipino people segues perfectly into what I wanted to talk about tonight, which is hope. The American people are what apparently, to me, are asleep. They walk around like zombies. They say they're awake. They say they're aware, but they're not. They're walking zombies. They don't know what a chemtrail is. They don't know thimerosal means mercury. So I was watching Thursday Night Football, and it has always inspired me. As I was telling Lark earlier, the guys who I served with were actually constitutionally minded folks. We pretended we were serving under honorable conditions. But anyway, I saw Thursday Night Football, and this tech sergeant from the Air Force had sung the national anthem. And I thought, okay, maybe in times of real despair and need, what the government tries to do to balkanize us might fail if Americans are awake, because I believe this. If we were in a situation that was dire, Americans have shown over and again, like the Filipinos, they will band together in order to provide for themselves and improve their situation with or without interference from FEMA. Americans will do this for themselves. And that we're still well armed means that we can reasonably expect that we can provide for ourselves if the need arises. I have that hope that that's what is left in America. Because without that hope, I vacillate into despair, looking at Sandy Hook or all these mall shootings and all these body cavity searches for, without a warrant that they're doing on people, this evil that we're living under, and I despair at times. But here with all of you, and I hear your voices and I feel your energy, we may not agree about karma, but at least we can agree what we do here is trying to help our fellow human to awaken so that they can make better decisions for themselves and their families and their friends, and how to resist, not comply, and remain healthy, because we know that we're being exterminated. So it gives me hope to be here with all of you. And so that is what I was thinking. It makes me feel better that I know there's others in this world, around the planet, from Vinny in New Zealand to Detlef in Switzerland to Alan in Ireland. This is a global effort that we conduct here on our monthly marathons, and it is unique. It is very unique in world history. And I don't miss that point. And so like I always say every month, I'm tickled that I could spend time with you guys.
What do you think, Matt?
Prevails.
What do you think,
That was
Matt?
very touching, Matt.
Should we think seriously about wrapping it up? You want to go around the table and let everybody give a parting remark?
Sure. Yeah, let's do that. How about we start with Mr. Eastwood?
All right. Well, if we're going to wrap it up, I'll actually wrap it. The world's getting worse. The situation is dire. There's so much work that we can never retire. All right, I'm done.
Well, good for you that we have your energy to do that. Yeah, thank you, Vinny. Don't retire. We need you in this fight. Let's see. Em, how you doing?
Oh, I'm so good. Thanks for asking. Well, I do deal with all the problems that are around. I'm quite aware of them, but I'm more interested in knowing where we can go and how we can get there, because I think that's the answer we're looking for, the next level of human consciousness. As I said earlier on the show today, humanity is in desperate need of a psychological upgrade. And I see what's possible. I know what's possible, not as a belief, but as an actuality. And I thank you all for giving me a chance to share some of this with you.
We appreciate your being here, Em, every month. Let's see, Dinah, we still have you here for the miracles of technology.
I know. I mentioned that.
Your closing thoughts, websites, contact, whatever.
I really like the expression "each one reach one" and "each one teach one," and that's been something I've never really used that phrase, although I've heard it around, of course. But in my work with the veterans, it's become very, very, very clear, and with the families of autistic children, that they don't rely on news media or formal ways of getting information. It's very much a passing along orally of information and contact information, and the support network, the private support network that they've managed to build for themselves is quite phenomenal, and it speaks to need and desire. Where there's a need and where they want to, they will prevail. And so this each one reach one and each one teach one can really be expanded across all neighborhoods and all communities, and eventually blanket the entire United States and the world. It just takes the desire. And so, having us all together on a show like this, I think we feed off of each other's energies, and we show those that are listening that there's actually quite a few of us. There are lots of us, and hopefully this will inspire some of the people that have listened to follow up on some of our individual radio shows and start implementing some of these things in their own lives. And the sooner the better, because I hear the drum rolls in the distance. I really feel as though we're under pressure to march forward fast.
It's that time. We're on that knife edge in history.
Yes.
Either we fall into absolute tyranny or we stand as a species. And that still resounds of the message at United We Strike, the same message we've been advocating for the last 4 years. Larkin, Texas, your closing thoughts, websites. Happy to have you on.
Well, thank you. Of course, you can find my work at larkintexas.blogspot.com. The website is entitled Just an American. It isn't much. It's really just a bunch of research notes and links and nothing special. However, I will leave you with a couple of words and observations this way. There is a worldview that I see coming into being today, which was expounded upon in a book written in 1714 by one Bernard de Mandeville. And the book was called The Fable of the Bees, or Private Vices, Public Benefits. Look this word up. Look this book up. The other is a word which I claim is a contributor of this all-encompassing ism called communitarianism. The word would have no special relevance or meaning whatsoever if it was not the basis for the law as we know it, as international law under the so-called New World Order. But that word is this word called obscurantism. Obscure. A-N-T-I-S-M. Look this up. Find out where it came from, how it came into existence, who used it, and ask yourself, is this not what we see around us today? And then note its connection to Hegel and to Aristotle and to many seminal figures throughout history. Karl Marx. And finally, for all you techies out there, especially to a gentleman by the name of Bill Joy, J-O-Y, and his work, Why the Future Doesn't Need Us. And I'll leave you with that, and I thank you so much for allowing me to participate.
Hey, we always like having you. Though I don't get all of what you say sometimes, I have to go do the homework that you suggest, but I don't have time. So you're kind of always a little bit of a mystery to me, but I'm intrigued at what you have to offer. Thanks, Lark.
You're quite welcome.
Suzanne, closing thoughts, websites.
Please, when you're finished listening to this broadcast, get out a sheet of paper and a pencil and write down the name of every corporation that you patronize every single day, including your utilities companies, the cell phone company, the cable company, the Starbucks where you go to get your coffee before you go to work, the BP where you get your gas, or the Shell gas station. Write it all down and ask yourself if you agree with the ethics, values, and morals of those corporations. And if you don't, find a local equivalent, because your neighbor needs that money more than they do. And in that way, we can crash the entire system. So it doesn't matter if they want to crash the economy. You know what, folks? Globally, on the global economy, because Americans are not spending money on things that they want and spending money on things that they need because they're cutting up their credit cards, because they're paying off their debt, because they're not incurring new debt, we've taken $3.3 trillion out of the global economy just in America alone. If you want to talk about crashing the system, we can do that anytime we want. We don't have to wait for them.
Don't comply.
Don't comply.
That's right.
We have our own sandbox. We have our own toys. We can do our own thing. And if they want to do that, they can do that over there. And we can do our own thing over here. You know, folks, we started a country once, we can do it again. We started a government once, we can do it again. We started a monetary system, we could do it again. Okay? So just stop complying with this one and start thinking about ways in which we actually want to live our lives and go ahead and do that. And don't worry about what's going to happen. Because if you're prepared, if your money's out of the bank, if you have a little bit extra in case something happens, you're not worried about what's going to happen because you know you're going to be okay. And that gives you so much power. It gives you so much self-esteem that you don't listen to the fear porn that's going on all around you. You know that you're taken care of in case anything happens.
Well, I personally advocate. Well, my personal response to the issue of money is I've taken my money out of the major bank system and put it into a Federal Reserve system, which is not insured by the defunct NDIC, right? Federal
FDIC.
FDIC. Thank you. And credit unions are insured by the NCUA, different credit system, and they're solvent. So if if the regular banking world went upside down, your money would still be protected because it's not FDIC insured. So that's what my thought is on that. Now, if my money's safe, probably not. So I guess your point is well taken, but if you have it under your mattress, you better have some bullets to back that up. But anyway, Gary, your closing thoughts in the den of vipers.
Yes, deep within the den of vipers. Now, I should do some blatant self-promotion. I always encourage others to do that, and I'm so forgetful that I do some stuff too. My name is Gary Hendershot. I do publish on the internet with the nom de plume Smart Scarecrow. I have a website at smartscarecrow.com. It's a fairly primitive site. Basically, it's just an accumulation of my various video productions. I do produce a weekly alternative energy broadcast that is vanity published on Justin TV. I also post recordings to YouTube using that nom de plume, Smart Scarecrow. And starting on Monday, I will be returning as a host at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. I understand that's about 5 p.m. West Coast U.S. time to the Rents Radio Network. I'll be doing the Monday evening Wide Awake News broadcast. I've taken a little bit of a hiatus from that for a while because, frankly, they moved the broadcast time to such a to a period of time when I was still trying to earn my keep. Now, on the issues, I've got way too much money in the banking system. Wish I could extract myself from it, but for reasons beyond my control, I am much more vested in the current economic system that I would like to be. But over the years, I have managed to extract myself as much as I possibly could. And as far as don't buy, don't comply, ask why, I take it a little further than just once a month. I consider that every day because, I have pretty much given up on the electoral system. I liken casting my ballot to making a choice between the turd sandwich and giant douche. But I know for a fact every time I open my wallet and spend $1, I'm casting a vote. And Suzanne, I think you would be proud of Gary Hendershot because he votes very carefully. And on that note, don't buy, don't comply, and always ask why.
Well said, Gary. And you've got a great radio voice. I like listening to you. It's like Papa Bear or something. Karen.
From my pirate radio days during the 1970s, man.
Yeah, well, you could be.
I was playing Jimi Hendrix when nobody else would.
Yeah, you could be the guy that comes on after Wolfman, right? Wolfman Jack, remember him? You could be that dude coming on late night.
He learned all his stuff from me.
No doubt. Karen Quintostado, you've been here from the beginning. It's a pleasure to have you back on, at least for the roundtable. I know you've got things going on in your life, but that's a good thing that you're living in spite of all of this going on. Closing thoughts, websites, how do you promote yourself?
Well, I have been a part of Wide Awake News now for a while, and actually Gary's coming back, and I will be leaving at the end of November. The program, I've enjoyed doing Karen's Corner, and I am leading on a series that is called Jesus, Man or Myth, Does It Matter? Because at this critical time in our history, when I look around at our world, if our religions were really working, we'd have a different view. And it's not just Christianity, and I'm not out to slam any religions. What I am out to do is to find the truth. How would you feel if Jesus didn't exist? Where's the proof that he did? Where's the proof that he didn't? This is important to me. I was raised Catholic, and I think also if we don't have the courage to really look in the mirror and to look at our belief systems without thinking that we're being blasphemous if we even ask a question, then in my opinion, we're still stuck in the dark ages. I think that all of us uniquely bring something to the table that is our own, and it is a shame that some of us are taken out without even having been able to contribute at all. When the drone strikes hit and take out innocent people, up to 50 of them, and we allow that and we continue to work and to pretend that our lives are okay, to me that's a huge travesty. There's a great disconnect between who we would like to be and who we actually are. And it is very critical at this time to really look in the mirror, to understand who you are. What is your life worth? Who are you working for? If you have a job manufacturing particles that will murder people, is that a good job? If you're working for Monsanto and you're actually doing the genetic engineering that is just changing the face of this planet, is that really a good job? Many of these problems that they tell us that we need the answers for are problems that the corporations created to begin with. So I would just like to encourage everyone to understand that we have that divine essence running through us. We are all worthy, but we have been poorly trained and we have forgotten. And as long as we continue to allow poverty at the expense of others who are making billion-dollar bonuses on Wall Street for stealing from us, as long as we're allowing people to tell us what to do and make decisions who are coming out of immorality, we're missing that mark. And if we want to step into that higher consciousness, we need to begin to clean up our own act. Suzanne, great idea. Definitely go local. I am very much involved now with the local farmers market and bartering. and trading. And it is really an honor to look at these handcrafted gifts that people come up with, or their vegetables, and to be able to work with them locally. And they're just starting now to pass legislation that will tax and make it more difficult for these people who own little second-hand stores around here to be able to sell their material. I think that we really need to understand we are much more than colored pieces of metal or paper, and unite, because the best job that we can possibly have to bring honor back to ourselves and our world is to be good stewards of it. And so far, we need to raise the bar, we need to wake up, we need to unite, and I'm so happy and proud of everyone here for continuing the United We Strike movement. Please remember the 15th. Don't buy, don't comply, ask why. Why are we here, and what are we doing about it? And what kind of job do we really need? Is it just over broke, or the joy of being when we can honestly turn around to heal our world and ourselves? Thank you very much, Matt. Thank you, Gary. Thanks to Detlef and Ellen also for producing today, and everybody here. I am enjoying being part of this again.
Thank you, Karen. It's, don't comply. I agree with that. We have to stand as a race against the New World Order all at once. We're here at that crossroads, like you say, Karen, right here in history, right now. If we don't make a difference, if we don't try to make a difference, who will? I wanted to talk about karma for a second because Vinny had brought it up. Okay, maybe you're right, Vinny. Yeah, maybe instant karma doesn't exist. Rockefeller still has his millions, and he still has all these.
Yeah, well, if anything, it's just the opposite.
Yeah.
If anything, it's just the opposite. If you're a good person, bad things will happen to you. If you're a bad person, good things will happen to you.
Oh yeah.
It's the immutable truth. But that's only because the good people still allow the ruthless scumbags to control what happens in society. If the good people were in control, we could reverse it. But that's within our power to do. We don't have to rely on any mystical force in order to
but
do
the problem is the good people don't want to be in control. They got enough on their plate worrying about themselves. They don't want to micromanage anybody else.
Oh, no, the good people don't have to really be in control. They just have to prevent the bad people from controlling them.
It depends on what they're good for.
According to my wife, I'm not even good to take out the trash.
Hey, Vinny, did I miss going to Vinny for closing thoughts?
Actually, no. I think Vinny got his shot. I think we've been around the table at this point.
Okay, so I guess it's time we can close. So.
I could just give my website real quickly. And
hey, that would be a great idea. You really should. You should do that blatant self-promotion.
Yeah, how do we listen to your show, Vinny?
Yeah, well, my philosophy is there's nothing shameful about shameless self-promotion. All right, it's the VinnyEastwoodShow.com, because there's only one Vinny Eastwood. It's the definite article. It's me. It's Vinny. It's the VinnyEastwoodShow.com. Vinny with a Y, because it's the most important question. And Eastwood isn't go ahead, make my news. You can check out all of the free archives and stuff like that, and listen in live 5 days a week. There's a little player on the radio stream there, 5 till 7 Central. That's 3 till 5 Pacific, 6 till 8 Eastern, 11 till 1 a.m. Greenwich Mean Time. And at the moment, during the summer, it's midday till 2 p.m. in New Zealand. And please, for the love of Norwegian cheese, support me, because I put on a whole lot of different activists from all over the world who have very important stuff to say, and a lot of them wouldn't have the opportunity if it wasn't for all of those people donating to me, so I can just pay my rent and my internet bill so I can make sure that it frickin' happens. Because the mainstream media in this country, New Zealand, won't frickin' do it.
Well, I'd look at you this way, and I mean this as a compliment, because I think what he does is good work for the most part, as the Alex Jones of the Southern Hemisphere. So you've got your empire to build, and I support you in that. But you mentioned karma, and so maybe karma doesn't exist, but this is the way I think about it on my personal level. I try to put money into the karma piggy bank every day. Whether it'll pay back or not is not my concern. Okay,
me personally, I just do a good thing because
because it's a good thing to do. Right.
Well, I just do good things and be a good person because it's the right thing to do, not because I feel like I'm going to get rewarded for it.
Correct. But my
You've got to
idea
basically
is
sacrifice yourself for good things and be willing to lose everything in order to accomplish your objectives, is my belief.
exactly. Okay. So I put money into the Karma piggy bank. Though I know from personal experience that I've had to make withdrawals from that piggy bank at times, and it's been there for me. So whether it pays off or not in your belief system, why not believe that putting money in the Karma piggy bank, if just to help the next person become better somehow in their situation, or helping somebody out, or just making a kind comment to someone.
Yeah, but that's what I do every day.
Well, good for you.
And that's what I do every single day.
Putting money in,
I don't look at it as putting.
well,
I used to think of it as putting money in the Karma piggy bank, but what I look at it now as is putting money in the social obligation piggy bank. I helped you, therefore, at some point down the track, maybe I'll need a favor, or maybe at some point down the track I'll be desperately in need, and all of these people that I've helped will come out and help me. That ain't karma doing it. It's individuals taking responsibility for thanking and helping somebody who helped them.
Well, as long as we're kicking around cultural idioms, your karma becomes balanced when whatever you do, whether it's the same thing you've always done or something radically different, no longer comes from subconscious compulsion. Then you enter into what they would call your dharma, which is the fulfillment of your own unique individualized potential.
Okay. Well, we need to wrap, gentlemen, and I'm sure Gary would like a break at this point. He said he ran out of coffee a little while ago. I thank all of our audience for listening. If you are so inspired, please tell the next person that you know about this radio program, because you can get such good information from Deborah Tavares to Suzanne Posel to Am Rosen of what's really going on in the world and how we can resist this and survive as a species. Again, thanks for all our producers, Detlef, Alan, and Gary. Without their talents and professionalism, we could not be on the air. And I'd like to thank all of you here gathered this evening. Your thoughts are always provoking, and it makes me inspired to continue doing what we do. Whether we win or not is not the point. That we tried is. So in the close of that, we'll look forward to all of you being back here next month. Say it with me, folks. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Death to the new world order. Thank you. Have a great evening.
All righty. I think I'm going to take us out with a little bit of Born on the Bayou. That's another one of my favorite classics.